Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's been a while.
Could.
And yeah, let's fuck it. Let's just jump into things. I'm very excited. We're actually back in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, so let's not pussyfoot around, shall we? We're gonna kick things off with a little bit of a recap. I may be rusty. I apologize. Previously, outside the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, on the morning of Alturiek the 7th, the party readied themselves to journey back into Undermountain. Before they departed, Bones met with Agita, his lapidary, to pay for the gemstone he had rented but left with the Emerald Enclave. The Boer hag was surprised and somewhat displeased that the Tabaxi hadn't returned with the gem, but a deal had been struck, and Bones had abided by its terms. Meanwhile, Ashes stopped by the Blackstaff's tower, finding Vajra Safar in a somewhat unexpectedly melancholic state. Her work seemed to be weighing heavily upon her, but regardless, the young Archmage had done what she could at Ash's request, given the short time to do so. She gave the Blood Hunter what aid she could, which included the name and services of a diviner, which Ashes promptly visited to receive cryptic answers about the near future. Eventually, the party gathered in the Yawning Portal and ventured down with Mossy and Eataden. Their journey was peaceful, and though they made a short stop to acquire some Malarican ale, they swiftly made their way to Legion territory, where Ezrah received them. The Legion commander held an air of anticipation and questioned the party on the plans for the coming battle, but they had no more real answers for him. Still, Ezrah seemed pleased to be in the process of mobilizing his forces and arranged for Rolvuk to accompany the party through the Dragon Gem Gate with a unit of legionnaires. Within the arcane veins of the mountain, the party was once more confronted by the feminine presence that had once guided them and shielded them. She pleaded for the party's aid in restoring her to her former power, so that she could aid them once more. But the price seemed a steep one, the spellbook of one of the seven. Before the party left, she repeated, "Sever the 7 strings from the 8, for the 9 are reborn in shadow." The party drifted forward, leaving the Mad Gates behind, only to arrive on the Lost Levels behind a Legion shield wall, being met by a hail of Drow crossbow bolts. The Legion had arrived unannounced into area protected by House Freth. Matashtai, in a flurry, rushed between the two forces while Bones called out over the den, bringing the altercation to a close. Changes would likely need to be made, so Bones called a meeting of the various factions within the Lost Levels, bringing the Legionnaires, House Freth, and the Skull Takers up to speed. Afterward, the party met with various figures, Thresher, Peppa, the Horned Sisters, before gathering once more to head to the stronghold of House Freth, Spiderwatch Keep. They activated the Flagon Portal and made their way beyond, into the mist, before arriving in Frethian territory, ready to begin clearing the way for a march to war. And that's where we fade back into the scene. I will move my players onto the map, and we're going to go ahead and change scenes real quick. And before we do anything else, I am going to show the party the Lurkana art that they... Fuck you, roll 20. The Lurkana art that they did not get to see last time. So this is Lurkana, the mate to...
I can't wait to see what goddamn
looks like a badass.
Ezrah.
Looks like a baddie.
So, this is the stern presence behind Ezrah's firm iron grip on the Legion. So yeah, that is Lurkana. And what I did not get to show you, as you all enter into Spiderwatch Keep, in through the front gates, into the parade ground, which I don't have all the tokens out here, but the parade ground is filled with Breathian Drow soldiers that are currently drilling through various tactics. And in the midst of them, you see Rilna Freth, the Drow house captain. Hey!
You got too much hair. That's gonna get pulled in battle.
She wears
and
a helmet.
possibly in other places.
She wears a helmet in battle. You calm down. You calm down, sir. But obviously, right, your presence is announced ahead of time. Your march into the courtyard of Spiderwatch Keep is not unnoticed or unprepared for. Rilna marches down this kind of like wide avenue in between two formations of soldiers who are, when I say drilling, I mean they're standing there with like shields up, spears out, and they're sweating. They look like they've been standing there for a long ass fucking time in that same position.
I bet they heard fucking badass
Right.
like, oh, we gotta hold shields now.
And yeah, so they've got this whole situation, and Rilna crosses the courtyard and kind of like hails you, but gives you the opportunity to speak first, if you so choose. There's kind of like this hanging moment in the air where she acknowledges your presence and gives you the opportunity to start something before she will take it.
What? When are we starting?
Has anything changed?
She looks thoughtful for a moment, shrugs, and says, "My older sister returned briefly before being sent back to the Warrens with more reinforcements. Hopefully, she can make your jobs easier, but I would not count too much on it."
How's your niece?
She's recovering fine.
Good news.
She kind of like
Yeah.
raises her
We got
eyebrows
one
and
more
looks at
fancy
you all, and says, "And you?" And it's kind of like an awkward, like she's kind of like forcibly pulling it out of herself, like, "Oh, he asked how things are here. I should ask them how they are."
We good.
Did
Better
Bones
than when we
literally like
left.
give a sick cough? What did you say, Ezra?
Oh, I'm sick. I can't help the sick cough.
What'd you say, Ezra?
I said better than when we left.
Good.
I thought we were okay when we
She kind of
left.
like
Oh,
she
well.
kind of gives Matashtai the once over, right? Like looking him up and down, kind of like doing that whole taking his measure thing. And whatever she seems to see, she nods and she seems to kind of like approve.
Dang. She sees the woman inside of you blossoming.
She says, "You want to meet with the mother. She is currently attending an audience with the Shadow Dusks. You'll have to wait
What is that?
a while."
And how can I be a part of it?
That's not a name you're unfamiliar with.
That's
Why
one of the
exactly am
drow
I familiar
houses,
with
isn't it?
Shadow dust.
Shits and giggles, everyone roll me a history check.
Okay.
Ah, love it.
History.
Very, very good at these.
91, baby.
Me.
Except I'm proficient, so it
Here
can't
we
be
go.
a 91.
It's still a 15, fuck off.
Well, yeah, I mean, true.
Yeah.
So it's not actually an especially difficult thing to recall. It's just fun to make you guys roll because you as players
I like
do not
rolling
have the
dice.
memories that your characters living through the events would potentially have. You
True.
know of the Shadow Dusks from two different situations. They'd been mentioned previously on one of your previous visits here with House Breath. They're another faction elsewhere in Undermountain that seems to be courting House Breath, seems to be trying to see if some sort of alliance can be made, and they have some representatives here. But that's only one place that you guys know the name Shadow Dusk from. The other is from your time spent in Dwemercore. And one of the students, Skriana Shadow Dusk. The seemingly completely mad student that had the Golem and the Grell as a, like, butler/steward combo. The one that I believe Ashes asked for information from about for Borden.
Yep. That was it Laxadoral?
What?
What?
Yeah, the drow I asked for information.
No. You got information from someone. I think it was from the prophecy that you got from.
Oh, right.
And it mentioned something about Shadow, so you assumed asking Skriana Shadow Dusk would give you that information.
Yep.
So that is where you all have heard those particular names.
Oh, well, that's less exciting, I'll be honest with you.
As this exchange kind of happens, right? Rilna leads you off to the side, out from in between the two formations of drow warriors. And basically there are a couple of, like, benches lining the courtyard. And there are a few individuals that are kind of seated in these various locations. Some are actually watching the proceedings. Some are seemingly involved in their own relaxation or work or study or what have you. But there are plenty of places for you to recline in wait.
I suggest if she would be so kind as to escort us to the quartermaster.
Sure. She can, she herself is somewhat occupied, so unless you insist, she just kind of, like, turns and calls over a runner to take you to the quartermaster.
You, Renanthmus.
Ball in your court, Ezra!
Do your job.
She's busy. I'll let it slide.
Oh, okay. Let it slide, huh? Alright, cool.
Yeah.
Then you are escorted to the quartermaster. Let me double check my notes. I gotta remember if that is north or south. I don't know that it matters explicitly, but in the case that it does matter eventually, I would rather you be in the right location than the wrong location. It is to the south. So you are escorted down here. And you're let in to a it looks almost kind of like a leg, but it's kind of like it's this little bubble room off of the body of Spiderwatch Keep that seems to be similar in representation to the leg of a spider, right? Just wider and in a strange kind of like design. But you're led there, and the quartermaster kind of like just this drow gentleman. I say gentleman, drow warrior, but looks like maybe a little older on the scale of an elven individual, right? Visibly actually has like kind of sunken eyes and slightly wrinkled skin, right?
Sure.
Is there, and you can see he's missing an arm, right?
Sure.
But moves about, greets you, and asks you, in a very polite way what the fuck you want, but there is a tone there that's kind of like, I've heard of you, why are you here, right, kind of scenario.
I get straight to the point. To your commander, I asked how we could help the forces, and she said arms would be of assistance. And I pull out my bag of holding and pull out 5 sets of studded leather, 5 sets of chain shirt, 5 short swords, 5 short bows, and 10 quivers fully stocked with arrows.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Nice. And so he sees you start to pull things out, and he puts up one hand, and he goes over to a table and clears off a couple things off of it. So these like crates of other gear. And then he kind of like directs you to lay everything out onto this table. So there's this whole process, and you see he goes over and he gets this, looks like a notebook, and he starts writing things down, and he's inspecting everything. And he grunts, love that everyone has insight. It's a somewhat tacit grunt, but he seems approving, right, in his appraisal of the gear that you bring in.
The quality meets his expectation.
Seems like he doesn't like do anything to turn up his nose or anything like that. He seems he's not like in awe or anything, but he's like,
right, this'll work.
Yeah, everything looks serviceable, right? Like he just makes a log basically of everything. Like he's in work mode. He is not. He doesn't seem to be trying to like hide the ledger that he's keeping or anything like that, but out of the sheer position that he's holding it in, right? It is somewhat difficult to read unless you're being obvious about it. I would say Bones and Matashtai can both see pretty easily.
What's he writing? I can't speak Elvish.
You can see pretty easily, right? Like it looks to be gridded paper, and he actually like makes these notes and seems to be tallying up, right, like each of the different types of gear and how many pieces there are. But at the bottom of that sheet, he writes something out. Matashtai, you can understand anything, but can you read everything?
Fucking broken ass.
I don't think you can read
every language.
Can you read any language, Matashtai, or is it just understand?
Understand all spoken languages.
I think it's like he'd be touching...
Wait, is there a weakness to your...
I wouldn't call it a weakness. I just call it a limitation.
He's like
so you both notice, right? Like he logs all of these items, and then he writes something more than just like a single word or anything like that. He writes some sort of note down at the bottom of this page, closes the ledger, and then kind of like roughly asks if there's anything else.
Nope.
Nods, grunts, gestures back out, you know?
And candy?
No, not to the quartermaster.
Oh.
Not to the quartermaster. What?
What's he
the runner that escorted you here did not leave, so is now available to escort you wherever it is you might want to go. Unless you're just heading back to the courtyard to wait, in which case you guys can just walk back over there.
Good old man.
I would inquire of the runner. We did also bring treats from above. Where would those be best?
He has you follow him actually into Spiderwatch Keep. So you're taken back out to the courtyard where you can see Rilna and the troops in the parade ground are continuing their training. You're taken into Spiderwatch Keep and led into a kitchen. And you're basically handed it over to some cooks.
That's fine.
Yeah. And one of them, there are two individuals in here, and they both seem to be busy. There's multiple things like like big cauldrons that seem to be constantly cooking something, right? And one of them, in kind of like a hurried tone, kind of looks over you, and speaks in Elvish, right? Like does not speak in common, asking, "What do you want? What do you need?"
We brought provisions from above, of the treat variety.
Both of the cooks in here stop what they're doing, turn and walk over to you. You see one of them kind of like does some sort of motion with their hand towards several of the like fireplaces underneath these cauldrons, and you see the fire dim underneath several of them, right? As if to kind of like make sure nothing goes bad while they're not paying attention. And they're both suddenly, they're like, "Wait, what? You brought you brought goodies? What's going on here?"
And then I
you just
beckon to. I don't remember who has the kegs, but
sure.
Let's get those and get those
I think
stored.
the kegs are dropped off, and I assume we undid everything.
Well, you dropped off
one. We dropped off one at
the Skull Takers,
and then we brought two down here.
You have another two. So it's at this point now,
right.
You guys can unload the kegs, and then everyone's inventories can go back to what they were, right?
Yep.
And then Ezra, you're also handing over the.
I would hand over the two packages. Yep.
There's a
explaining
moment.
What they are.
And there's a moment where these two cooks kind of like go through the motions of inspecting all of these things, etc., etc. And they seem relatively excited about it. This one particular one is far more vocal than the other, Elendar, and he kind of like and he looks at you, and then he starts to like pick up a couple of like of the various different goodies and pop them into his mouth, right? And
I mean, he's got to know.
And you can see each time he does, right before it, he makes this face of like almost this kind of like wince, and he's testing them to make sure that
they're not poison,
right?
Or something. Yep.
And then afterwards,
I was gonna offer to do that, but okay.
Afterwards, he goes through this motion of like rolling the two kegs over into the corner, and shortly thereafter, you are no, I don't think there would be. You hear a cough behind you, and you realize Rilna has come into the doorway of the kitchen, right? And as she does so, you see two individuals pass her in the hallway, coming from the audience chamber of the Great Mother, right? You see, actually, I think, do I have handouts for these people? Yes, I do. You see this person and this person.
Bro, how you get your hair like that?
Question.
I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life.
The one with the hair, or not much hair, but some hair.
Point of inquiry for Malene.
Yep.
Is it one of those where it's like three tails coming off? Like,
yes, you actually,
threads?
like when you see her pass, yeah, she actually has these kind of like tails coming down the back of the neck. And she doesn't look at any of you. She looks incredibly dour, like perpetually displeased, right? The other one, the one with this kind of like funky headdress kind of like scenario and this kind of like beaming smile, looks over at all of you and at Rilna as they pass and just gives you this very pleasant kind of like almost jovial smile and nod of acknowledgement, before following the other one down the hallway, and they disappear out of sight. Rilna kind of like looks not suspiciously but inquisitively at the proceedings that are happening, and immediately the two drow cooks are back to business, doing other stuff.
Bring up the heat.
Right, but the heat goes back up, etc., etc. And then Rilna kind of like clears her throat and says, "The Great Mother will see you now," and then kind of like gestures to follow her before leading you
As
down.
we're leaving, I turn to the cooks. Thanks for the assistance. Keep up the good work. And
One of them gives you this kind of like very weird like head to or thumb to temple like hand going out scenario, and it looks reminiscent of kind of like an acknowledgement or a salute that you've seen in this place, right? And then you all are able to be led into the audience chamber with the Great Mother and her brother, Driven Breath.
Mother.
Un momento.
Okay.
I remember I've got Mosaic. It's Mosaic time.
Damn, he's got some Muzak.
Muzak. You see, reclined on her divan, the plush, pillows and the silken sheets and everything like that. You see Erlal Freth, still full to bursting in her pregnancy, glowing practically. And you see off to the side her brother, Driven Freth, kind of like standing, but at ease posture. What is somewhat different is that sitting before Erlal is the best comparative I can describe it as is an ark, right? Like the Ark of the Covenant, right? So it's got two pauldrons or poles or whatever it is that carry this, looks to be like a box, but on the top of it there is a bowl of what looks to be clear liquid, and it's sitting before Erlal. It's maybe about thigh height, right? And the Great Mother nods as you enter and says in her kind of like overly melodic voice, "It's good that you've returned. Things have been fine of late, but with each day that passes, we grow more concerned about our narrowing options. I'm glad to see that you're back." She looks at Matashtai. "I'm glad to see that you're all back."
Me too. Thank you.
"Your journey has borne fruit. It was good."
And candy and ale.
"You find us at an interesting moment. We were actually just about to do some scrying. Would you care to join us? More eyes can sometimes suss out details that a single pair cannot."
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Being frank, as far as like plans moving forward, we haven't really settled on any. So, any new information we can get, the better.
When last you
trying.
left us, we had many options hanging in the air before us, as well as many pitfalls. We have not been idle in your absence. Hopefully, while I do not believe we can provide answers to every question, we can provide guidance. Perhaps we will find more. We scry daily, but there is no guarantee of success, and even when we are successful, there is no guarantee of it being useful. Our spies amongst the Avrandar feed us names of individuals and tokens so that we might increase our chances. But I must be cautious on expending too much power. We try to do some earlier each day to make sure that something gets done, and then finish an evening with more just in case something happens throughout the day. And she kind of like gestures to her brother. He walks over to that counter that he's normally standing at, that kind of cabinet scenario. Opens up a drawer and pulls out a little baggie, a little satchel, right? Walks over to the bowl, the ark that's sitting in front of Erelal, and opens the satchel, pulls out some, looks like fine silvery powder, and flings it into the air above the bowl. And you see it kind of like stop and hover there. And you see the water begin to slowly spin, and as it does, you see Erelal sits up, breathes deep, and her eyes roll back into her head. And you see that silvery powder begin to crackle. She speaks, and it's her voice. And she seems cognizant. She seems present, right? She hasn't drifted off into some divination state or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, we were planning on scrying upon Chalzana, Lonwell's chief advisor. We haven't had much success with her yet. We believe, much like our own wards here within Spiderwatch Keep, Lonwell has been fortifying her position. But on the occasion, we find a way to break through, or that Chalzana has found her way outside of that protection. Let's see what we find today. And she begins to chant melodically in a language that none of you understand. Matashtai, is it spoken language?
It says, if I can find my sheet behind all these pictures. You understand all spoken languages.
Matashtai, you do not understand what she is saying.
Oh, she's speaking
She is
gibberish.
not speaking a language. She is
Speaking in tongues.
She's speaking magic, which does not fall. Ezrah, there's a purity here that's kind of unsettling.
Hey.
Huh.
I think the association for you would be akin to the elemental dream that you had.
Fuck that shit. Murderous goddamn bunnies.
Whatever Erelal is using right now or doing right now seems to be more
Primal.
ancient and primal in nature.
Very cool.
She speaks the old words.
You see... Was that a 13th Warrior reference? You see the silvery filaments hanging in space above the swirling water begin to sway back and forth. And almost like a 3D Etch-a-Sketch, right? Like they begin to shimmer into lines and create an image. What we would consider to be holographic, right? Like that kind of concept. But just these like lines of silver shavings outlining the things that you see. You see a drow woman. You're looking into the face of a drow woman. Not an especially special or out of the ordinary drow woman. There's something unnaturally average about her that seems to instill the concept that if you saw her in a crowd, you would not see. She's standing somewhat relaxed, but there is an annoyance to her posture. You hear voices coming from the periphery. She's not speaking, but others near her are speaking. It's hard to understand anything. And then you hear Erilal's pitch go higher. And suddenly, you understand the words a bit better. You hear a male voice speaking to someone. Not speaking to Chalzana, but speaking to someone next to Chalzana. I feel as if I comprehend your reticence, Your Majesty. But both you and Kretch Kalir share powerful enemies. Working together, even just tentatively, can be nothing but a boon for both your forces. In Adar we have a saying, neither earth nor sky, but together. Matashtai.
Sounds like some mad bullshit.
You recognize this voice.
Oh,
Who is it?
Who else could it be?
Is it Dark Matashtai? Oh, it's Boros.
Boros?
Wasn't that the name of the guy I played?
Oh, it's your bestie.
No, it's my bestie.
Damn,
you
it's
saw-
Ratashtai.
Ratashtai.
When you
Yep.
saw
Good
your
old rat.
master,
Yeah, Ratashtai, but a rat.
when you
Matashtai.
saw your master, Liu Sun, in whatever that in-between was before the afterlife, he told you that he had not seen Darren Tash. And now you hear his voice.
Damn, bro.
And he's talking with the evil drow? You're frozen as
The-
hell for me if you nodded.
Picture that you were looking at whirls suddenly as Chalzana seems to turn. And for a split second, you see this sweeping view of a throne and a regal queen sitting upon its black edifice. And you see, sitting in front of this queen, a box just like the one you're looking at right now. And silvery filaments
oh no.
floating above it, outlining the form of your friend.
Right.
And you see Chalzana look up directly towards the scrying censer. Curse, her hand slashes out, and the
Hurry!
filaments
Fireball through it.
fall into
That's how
the
that works, right?
into the swirling liquid, which immediately stills.
Damn. But motherfucking Matashtai.
Rotate.
Erlol's eyes come back to normal.
Matt kind of rushes back to the scrying pool and kind of looks at.
You rush up to it.
What's Mama's name?
Erlol, you rush
Erlol?
up to the scrying pool, and as you rush up to the scrying pool, you see the silver filaments have fallen into the scrying pool in the outline of your friend's face.
Can we get it back? Where is he? How do we find him?
Erlol's eyes come back, and Driven kind of like
stuck in one.
Driven kind of like looks at you inquisitively, and Erlol, seemingly like coming back into the moment, she shakes her head for a second and she says, I do not know who he is, so I cannot answer you.
His name is Darren Tash. Friend of mine. My best friend. Thought he died.
You just hear Ezra
Crashed.
kind of clear his throat awkwardly in the back.
Yeah, damn, Ezra thought he was his best friend. Shit.
Oh, shit. He's gonna cry himself to sleep tonight.
Matt looks back. I can have more than one.
You're
Ezra,
my
it's all
best
right.
friend. Am I not your best friend?
What's that meme of Will from Stranger Things turning away and crying, but not trying to be
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that's a good one.
Oof.
She looks at you like her heart's on her sleeve, right? She looks at you with sadness in her eyes, and she says, this is someone close to you. But that did not
Yes.
sound favorable.
Maybe he's just confused. He doesn't know what they are, what they're doing.
Damn, just like my girlfriend's grandma being Hitler.
What the fuck?
What
They
the
were both-
fuck?
They were both born on 420, which is Hitler's birthday.
Really?
That definitely means that they're Hitler, yeah.
There are
Well-
so many people that are born on that same day. What the fuck?
There's a lot of jokes that go over
Yeah,
in the
but
back
I
there.
don't think anybody else managed to kill that many people that also have that birthday.
I mean, sure.
Except for my
I
girlfriend's
can't say
grandma.
anything because if any of us had that birthday, we would probably write each other about it as well.
yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, we don't give you enough shit for your birthday being on 6/9.
69, baby! Woohoo!
Hey, now people have enough information to dox you.
Look,
Mine's on March 2nd. I live in El Dorado,
I'm-
Arkansas.
my
area
information
code
is so fucking
7173.
public,
I don't give a
Zach.
fuck.
I don't care. Get the fuck out. All right, back into the moment.
Oh, she got a birthday card from Hitler. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, that's
She's also
actually
German.
that's
she
actually
German?
interesting.
Yeah, she's German.
Ooh.
Nazi German.
Not Nazi German. Apparently, there's a difference.
I mean, yes, there's a difference.
Even
Zach,
in World
what
War
the
II,
fuck?
apparently there was a difference in Nazi German and not
Yeah,
Nazi
she wasn't a
German.
Nazi. She was just part of the Third Reich.
Much like our country today, I would say, maybe I don't know, but historically, maybe not the majority, but there was plenty of Germany that was not for any of that shit.
Well,
Anyways,
not all of them got birthday cards from Hitler.
moving on away from that
Just saying.
and back into the moment. Erlal looks at you and she says, we will do what is in our power to help you. You want me to scry on him again? And Driven kind of like looks at her, like gives her this kind of like side nod of like, is that really a good idea right now? And she shrugs at him, like she seems willing.
It's like, we can only do this so many times a day. And now she's like,
Well,
you want to like star 6? What was it? The old callback?
I guess.
I think it's
Number-
star 69.
Yeah, I think it's Star 69.
We're old.
yeah.
Well, so just for clarity, when we were scrying, was he there, or was he also being like
He seemed
scried to and
he
talked?
seemed to be communicating to presumably Vlonwelv upon the Obsidian Throne, right? In a apparatus much like what you were doing, but they were communicating rather than viewing, right?
Okay. Then I would ask, are we able to scry on him specifically?
I can try to scry on him, but because I do not know him and I do not have anything of his, it will lessen the chances of success. If there is any chance of
Well-
success.
Well, does it have to currently be his, or could it have been his in the past?
If it potentially has a strong emotional tie or history to him, it would prove useful.
I hand her Tan Bakiri. This was his before mine.
She nods. She looks at you. Says, "You need to know, even without this, there is no guarantee. Or even with this, there is no guarantee.
Sorry.
Should we fail, we can continue this in the future. However," and you hear Driven kind of start to speak up, and she kind of like holds up a hand and cuts him off and says, "However, at this moment, I feel my brother would assert that our resources should be spent on the threat at hand. But
Yeah, I agree. I'm
At least for
just
now.
looking for a little more information.
at least for now, let's see if we can have some success. Shall we?"
Yeah.
Nods to Driven, reaches once more into the pouch, flings the filaments above the water. And this one, we're gonna have a little rollsies.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Rosie.
Roll out.
Vlonwell, or Erlol, she's secretly Vlonwell the whole time. Erlol
God, I knew it.
is not familiar with Darantash. She has basically only heard of him. That increases the difficulty by a +5. But she has a possession of his, or presumably of his in the past, which would decrease the difficulty by a +4 normally. I'm going to say, due to the scenario, I'm going to decrease that down to a +3 instead of a +4. She has also, albeit briefly, seen his likeness just moments before. That decreases it by a further 2. Basically neutralizing the fact that she does not know him. So, this is going to be a straight roll. Now, normally, the way that this would work is that the person being scried upon would have a saving throw against the scry. However, I don't think it's going to be fun to have Darantash way off in Wibbly Nowhere be the one who rolls this. So
Sorry,
instead,
where did you say he was?
Wibbly Nowhere. Instead,
Wibbly nowhere.
we're going to have Matashtai roll this. So, you're rolling a d20, and you have no bonus, but no malice.
Ooh,
Bam.
that's delicious.
How about a nat 1?
That'll work. Blonwell sees into your brain. She knows what you know.
You see a swirl begin in these filaments, matching the swirling water. Erelol's eyes roll into the back of her head. She begins to chant and chant and chant. And then there is a puff. Not an explosion, but all of these silvery filaments burst out from their swirling pattern above the water. And they fly about the room, kind of like lightly glitter bombing the space immediately around them. And instantly Erelol falls out of the trance. Her eyes go back to normal, and she sighs and looks at you, Matashtai, and she says, either wherever he is at has very strong wards, or he himself does not want to be seen.
Okay. Well, thank you for trying.
Of course. Perhaps when things are less dire, we try again. See what we can find of your friend.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
She kind of like motions with a hand, and you see one of the attendants clap. A door opens to the north, and some drow come out, walk across the audience chamber, and then pick up the scrying pool and carry it out of the room. And then Driven, Erelol kind of like lays back. Driven, she seems somewhat tired, right? Like not exhausted, but she seems, somewhat tired. Driven looks at her with this look of concern on his face, and then turns back to all of you and says, all right, now that that's done with, perhaps we can move on to other matters of business. Are you here now, ready for what's to come?
War. Yes.
Well,
Well,
not yet. No,
He
the
holds
war's
a
after.
up hand, and he points to Ashes. I agree with the lycanthrope. I think the march to war is not yet here, but paving our way should be the next discussion.
Securing a route, yes.
I would also say at this point, this is something I haven't reinforced consistently, but I do think I mentioned it the first time you all were here. But you feel the ground begin to rumble slightly. Not in a crazy like, oh, earthquake everywhere, but it just trembles slightly.
Ezra just assumes it's his knees shaking.
And this is not the first time that you have experienced this. You experienced it when you first came here, and there would have been other times that you experienced this, but I don't think I reiterated it to the point that I should have. In fact, I would say anyone who has... fuck it. We'll make this insight. I love you guys. Everyone can roll me an insight check on this. Or I will say history if you would rather roll history.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I am a benevolent god.
Haven't seen 300 in a long ass time.
15, 17, 21, 25. 15 and 17. With that, you are able to... You realize that this is a reoccurring event. The times that you have been within Breathian territory, you've experienced this on the occasion, right? And it seems that all of the Breathians are very used to it, and untroubled by it. The 21 and 25 have noticed it to the point to where you've, whether intentionally or unintentionally, kind of clocked that it happens not exactly every hour and a half, but pretty close to every hour and a half. The ground trembles for maybe about 5 minutes or so before going back to normal. Not an earthquake, not enough to actually move or shake anything, right? There's just this vibration in the ground underneath your feet.
Is that the Zazana? I say it out loud.
Ezrah actually driven. No, that's the boar worm.
I'm sorry, what?
The what?
The boar worm.
Ah, yes. That.
It's a titanic construct that travels between this floor and the floor below us, constantly
Construct?
looping back and forth.
Someone made that?
Not someone. Trobriand. The realm that lies beyond this is referred to as his graveyard.
Indeed it is.
A deposit for his failed and successful constructions. The boar worm seems benign as long as you are not within its path or trying to travel down to the next floor while it is going one way or the other.
Okay, so
It is protective of that floor in that regard.
Not in the slightest. It just doesn't
Oh.
stop. And the tunnel the tunnel
get
is as wide as it is.
just to get some context, like if like let's say like a purple worm was to go up against this thing, who would win?
Driven imagines a kaiju battle in his head. And says, I'm not especially familiar with the capabilities of a purple worm, nor the capabilities of the boar, but I believe Trobriand modeled the boar worm off of the former. It is his version of said creature. But
Not terrifying at all.
as far as we are aware, it is not sentient. It does not diverge from its path. And it's indestructible. So we tend to ignore it. I should clarify, we have successfully destroyed some of its armor plating, only to see it immediately repaired in the past. The tunnel it creates or keeps clear lies to the northeast of our territory. It's a simple enough measure for us to post guardians there and then not worry about it.
In terms of this conversation, then that's
Not a concern.
not a concern.
For
Yep.
us in regards to House Ovrendar.
Yes.
A concern for you in the future, perhaps, with your...
We can have those conversations later, yes.
Back to the subject at hand. Marching to war with House Ovrendar. We have, through various means, and he kind of gestures to Erlal, ascertained that in your absence, House Ovrendar has made a more concentrated push to take over the Warrens. We have dispatched another of our siblings with a platoon of troops to try to counter that effort and to solidify our meager foothold within the Warrens. But he looks at Erlal, and there's kind of like a look between them. I personally would not consider that to be a solution to our problems, merely a hope that the problem does not escalate. It is already bad enough that we have so many other threats to deal with within the Warrens. If Avrindar gains a solid foothold there, or worse, conquers the majority of the Warrens, currently their ability to pull in reinforcements is greater than our own. Nearby houses are more inclined to support a faction like House Avrindar than they are ours. At this particular moment, House Avrindar is pinned in by the amount of territory they control. They have previously been trying to increase their territory by scouting other floors and conquering those floors. But to our understanding, they have met with various difficulties in those tasks. And he just
Ezrah just looks
very,
at Bones.
he looks very pointedly at all of you, right?
Oh man.
Which is
They
good
should
for
have
us,
they should have
because
paid us what they said they would.
if they had been able to conquer other floors, they would have received more reinforcements from other houses, and we would be facing a much larger threat than we do now.
That's now. So the Warrens are on this floor, right?
Nope, the Warrens is the floor between us
between-
and House Avrindar.
The floor below.
Nope,
Floor above. So you're on 12.
Above. Okay.
Warren's is 11. Avrindar is 10.
All right.
Muriel's
Backwards.
gauntlet.
I had it completely
Yes.
back.
Yep.
Yep.
So, that, for me, means that it is of dire importance that we prevent House Avrindar's successful conquest of the Warrens by whatever means necessary. My sister and I disagree on the methods, but at the end of the day, as long as our way is clear to march on House Avrindar, and House Avrindar is not allowed to control that territory and, worse, fortify it, then it works in our favor. I am not sure that Nahastu can be reasoned with. If you wish to go that route, you are more than welcome to. All of our exchanges with them in the past have met with bloodshed, even in our most diplomatic states. So, aside from that, there is the matter of the other denizens of the Warrens, the various trolls that seem to be without end, and then the rune serpent itself, the Pemi, which I believe to be the largest threat within the Warrens.
Ruined serpent, you say? Very interesting. Is this construct or beast?
It's a Behir. We believe
know
it
what
to
that
be
means.
one of presumably Halaster's mutations.
Okay, so Zach doesn't know what that means. Is a Behir a beast?
A
Yes.
Behir is a creature from ancient times. If my history serves me correctly, they were originally created to fight against dragons.
By the giants.
Oh, really? Okay, ancient dragon fighting bones. All right.
They're like snakes, but they're like centipedes meet lizards or
With
some
lightning.
shit.
Look,
Yes,
some of my best
they're very
work
cool.
from snake bones. So
The Pemi
that
itself
sounds great.
is a unique creature and not to be underestimated. It is not called the rune serpent for nothing. Within its... Well, I can only tell you from second-hand accounts, but it seemingly is instilled with complicating magics that can make it difficult to face off against.
Man, that's our
Not
specialty.
something a platoon or troop can handle. Something more suited for individuals like yourselves.
Adventurers. Yes.
Shrugs. In a different time, in a different place, he nods to Rilna, he nods to Erelol. My sisters and I would have no problem facing off against a creature like this. But that is before we were beholden to keeping this house safe. It is most likely, and he turns to Erelol, a slow withering that we undergo at this point. But even if we hold here, there are chances for success for us. Whereas running off into some foolhardy scheme and losing someone could spell doom for our people. And you see Erelol has this look on her face like, I don't want to hear this shit. I'm not happy about this. I get it. You've said this to me 100 fucking times. Shut the fuck up. Right? But she doesn't like clench her jaw. She just has that look in her eyes. And she stays stoic as she lets Driven speak. Aside from the Warrens, there's still the fact of the Zazana. But and you see Erelol look at him and kind of like tilt her head like she is not happy about what he's about to say. I believe I have a plan to... I believe your saying is kill two birds with one stone?
Yes, that is my saying. Thank you for knowing it.
Kind of like shrugs nonchalantly. The Zazana are led by a shaman. A creature known as Maku, who believes himself to be a devout servant of the Horned King.
Very good. Yes.
Baphomet, okay.
However, Minotaurs are feral creatures. They respect only strength. Now, I would not suggest you facing off against the Zazana. We have tried to cull their numbers in the past to seemingly no avail. We do not know if they are able to reinforce themselves. I would assume that they are not endless in number, but within their territory, things do not quite add up, and we have been unable to winnow them. But if a stronger creature presents itself, especially a stronger creature of the Horned King's ilk, then they would bow to it rather than to Maku. I can hear somebody something.
That's Zach.
And you see Erelol does not like this line of reasoning, right? Driven says, I've devised a ritual that would potentially allow me to summon such a creature, bind it to my will. But in order to do so, I require the heart of a comparably powerful creature. You slay Mapemi,
Oh.
and I believe we will have the heart we need.
Let me tell you, cutting out hearts is something of my specialty.
Are you willing to give up the heart, though?
I don't generally deal in flesh.
Troll
Says
heart.
the person with literally the Troll King's heart
I was gonna say.
as a dagger.
I was a means to the end.
I still hear your thing, Zach.
Okay, so
You hear, right, like there's a pause, right, where Driven has kind of like laid that out. And then Erelal kind of clears her throat. And she says, alternatively to potentially binding an incredibly dangerous creature within our midst that might have its own agenda and care not for ours, we could attempt other avenues. And Driven kind of like sighs and he says, that bull is crazed. It speaks nothing, screams and rages. She says, there has to be a reason for its exile. Why would it be cast out if there was not something to it, Driven?
So there's an exiled Minotaur.
The white-furred bull.
this is so much shit.
Welcome to the setup for the next arc, my man.
Yeah.
I believe if we can quell the beast's rage, we might find an ally in it. But unfortunately, so far, I have been unable to do so with the magic at my disposal. However, and Driven just kind of like sighs almost disgustedly. However, we believe we have ascertained the key to his madness. He wears a cursed collar, one that cannot be broken by normal means. But we believe this Maku bears its key. And then Driven just unloads, right? Like, loses his cool, unloads, in a way that I'm gonna be unable to represent. So, just imagine condescending anger for this next bit, right? He says, so, your plan would be to send our would-be adventuring saviors into the place that we literally just told them would be foolhardy to attack, and attack the head of these creatures that we have realized we can't quell, we can't winnow them, so we're gonna send them in to kill the leader and get a key. I guess technically you wouldn't have to kill him if you can just find the key and get out, but how's that gonna happen? And even if it does, all we get out of it is the potential of getting this cursed collar off of the neck of a crazed individual who might still want to kill us after that point. Erelal just weathers this tirade, right? Just this straight, dour, older sister, very used to the outburst kind of scenario. Driven finishes. You hear a cleared throat behind you from Rilna. Driven looks over at her, and if you look at her, you see this disapproving look on her face. Driven sighs and he says, look, I don't care. There's a problem. We need a solution. I've offered you my conceptual ideas. If you think that they are not the route that we should go, that's on you. Erlal inclines her head and looks back to all of you. And she says, those are the main points of contention that we currently have. The Zezana, Mapemi, the Nahastu, the Trolls, House Avrandar's Foothold. There is another concern, though, potentially. And Driven kind of like nods as if he's over the moment and thinking about something else now. She says, at the end of all of this, even if we find solutions to these problems, and we are capable of marching against House Avrandar, we have battled them in the past. There is no guarantee that our forces matched against theirs will prove victorious. You had mentioned in the past your own allies and potentially the ability to reinforce this war effort. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we started that process. We've called on our sworn allies in the Legion of Azraq, as it would be.
What does that mean? What numbers are we looking at? What units can they field? Is it just them, or are there others?
Yeah, I don't think Azraq gave us numbers.
The Legion does war well. We don't know numbers, but
Ezra starts, because he's been having conversations with the leaders as plans were starting to happen.
Sure.
I feel like Ezra would have ballparks what they were talking about with
So you all
very
understand,
high-level cursory.
very kind of like 30,000 foot view kind of concepts. You all know that the circumstance that the Legion is in, that they cannot just uproot the entirety of their military force and march on House Avrandar. If they do that, the militant kind of like rebellion that is brewing within Stromkolder, within the Legion or the Legion's hold, right? Will mean that they don't have a home to return to, right? Not without conquering it again. So the theory would be that units of the Legion march to war, while the majority of the Legion remains within their territory holding that space, right? While particulars might not have been fully discussed, I think it would be realistic for the concept to be that most likely Azraq himself would march to war with you, while Lurkana held Azraq's hold. And that would likely mean that a handful of units, whatever a unit might be in this kind of instance, would march with Azraq. Specifically to the two, it depends, right, on kind of like what you guys talk about and what you plan, but the basic plans and mobilization concepts that you've heard via the various war councils and things like that would be Azraq's own unit, right? The Legionnaires' heavies would march with Azraq because they're his honor guard, and where he goes, they go, right? And then aside from that, it would likely be at least 2 units of Legionnaires that march along with, right?
I would make it very clear, just from my cursory explanation,
Sure.
that we have already received approval from him for Erlal to reach out to him by divine means in terms of planning and preparation.
She makes a note of that,
to get
right?
that
And
information.
so like you have that kind of scenario of like, okay, that's now going to start happening, right?
Yep.
And then Erlal speaks again, and she says, "What of others? You've spoken of your plan, the Skull Takers. Will they march with us?"
Yes. I mean, they'll do, whatever we need, really.
You seem hesitant.
I value their lives.
We value all of our lives as well.
They're not as strong as you are.
Are they not? Did they not face down an invasion from House Avrandar already?
I suppose they did.
Perhaps you
And a house
underestimate
captain,
them.
no less.
Then
Perhaps.
I feel as if we might be blessed by their presence. I thought there were others. I thought you had mentioned an entity,
An
at the
entity?
very least.
We have an entity?
Some strong creature that was working or beholden to you?
Maybe Darkest Rain Shadow? Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge.
Oh, the Darkest Rain Shadow? I hadn't discussed it with him, but we're returning to the old ways, so we
It
can
has
talk
been
to him.
my... actually, I think Driven would... Actually, you know what? I don't think it would be Driven or Erlaw. I think Rilna would speak up. And I think she would say something along the lines of, it has been my experience in the past that powerful singular entities can often turn the tide of battle, and House Avrandar is not without their own.
Sure.
Anything
Truth.
that you can bring to the table is stacking the scale against them.
I hadn't
Driven-
considered involving him, but we can think on that.
Driven kind of clears his throat and he says, well, if it's the Legionnaires and your allies, the Skulltakers, then I believe that might bring us to parity with House Avrandar and the number of their current forces. I would prefer to have the edge, but it is what it is. On the subject of powerful entities, we've had some experience dealing with House Avrandar in the past and other houses before that. How much of large-scale battles have you experienced?
How down?
Yeah, we've
I
had
look
one.
around.
We've had one or two.
Tell me of this Helldown.
On the surface, there is a yearly event.
Sorry, I do not need the backstory, I meant the battle itself.
He doesn't want to be J-splained. She doesn't want to J-splain.
Damn, she cut you
Yeah.
down before you could even J-splain.
She said no J-splaining today.
I pass.
I pass. Wow.
The intent is to call troll forces. We led a group, an infiltration group.
We led.
We ended up being a part of an
I was gonna say, you
infiltration
were
group.
the infiltration
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. And struck down the king
Troll king.
of this troll faction.
I took his heart.
Well, many, and I, Jake, don't remember the numbers of troops that it was to face off, but Ezra would
Hundreds,
have those
yeah.
numbers that he would just be spouting off.
Low hundreds is kind of like the sides, right, basically. And as you kind of describe this event, Erlal and Driven just look at each other with these kind of like knowing nods, right? And Driven turns to you and he says, when large-scale battles like these happen, what tends to happen is that certain entities or certain individuals counter others. In the past, Lonwell has met my sister in battle, and the two forces somewhat neutralize one another. Many of us have our counterparts among House Ovrendar. In the coming battle, that is likely what will happen.
Oh yeah, we met yours, didn't we?
We will
When he disintegrated Matt's friend.
kind of narrows his eyes and he
Oh.
says, Gorthax is not my counterpart.
Well, okay.
There is definitely this like Gorthax is beneath me kind of like
Yep.
moment, right? I would consider my counterpart to be Zres Orlevier, the second hand of Vlonwell, her protege, if you will. In the past, said entities or individuals have neutralized one another. If that happens in the future, then it will come down to sheer force of arms and tactics. However, if we tip the scales, and when the battle commences, an infiltration group were to attack said leadership, then that leadership, even if they are not slain, would not be a part of the battle. Meaning that our individuals are not neutralized. That tips the scales in our favor. But the concept there is, even if you were willing, because let's be honest, we're talking about you at this point, even if you were willing to undertake such a dangerous task, how would we get you there? How would you find your way to strike at the rear, at the command?
I mean, we got a portal right to the throne room, right? We know where that one is.
That one's
Oh
trapped.
god. Oh god. A
That one's-
really?
Really? We're gonna have me go through PTSD again after...
Whoa. Well, I mean, I completely forgot about that portal, but yes, that. Why do they have a portal like in that room?
Well,
I
they
don't
didn't
think
make
they
the
get to
portal.
decide where the
But
portal
they
does not
they
go.
built their house around that portal.
They didn't build Obsidia.
They took it.
Somebody
Remember,
did.
both Ovrendar and House Freth aren't from here. They came
do.
here,
Yeah.
right? They immigrated here, right? They marched from actual Drow territories after the Rage of Demons, after Minzo Baranzan was partially destroyed.
Oh, we caused that
Oh,
one too, didn't we?
Yeah, you
I wonder
did.
what happened there.
Yeah, you did. It all comes back around.
Good times.
Good times. Y'all chose to fucking have the fight back in Minzo Baranzan, and now the consequences are here.
Rip Vathic.
Consequences.
A portal is interesting, but if you, as you say, it is trapped, that could be a very quick one-way ticket. Perhaps there are ways that we could get around that. Alternatively, you already know of other entries into Avrendar's territory. You've been there before.
Yeah, we can walk.
Technically, yes, but that's not like
And
a.
there's another portal right at the entryway.
Those spaces, though, will also have Avrendar forces.
Right.
And if we
Mhm.
do not attack them, then those Avrendar forces will come to reinforce the battle. It is best that we hit every entry that we can with what is available. Whatever your access point is, I leave that for you to decide. But again, on the theory of you undertaking this task, you would need to get into the heart of Lonwelv's domain. This portal that you say could be one of the best routes.
Right. We would need to find a way to not be completely exploded from setting foot through the door.
Or find a way to trip the traps ahead of us.
The other
Yeah.
issue, assuming we do attack the northern section of Avrandar's territory to tie up its forces there so that they cannot reinforce the actual battle, that particular force would need to march through the gauntlet. Which means
Muriel.
risking Muriel's ire.
And with so many people, it's pretty much guaranteed to happen.
Well, we just kill him.
Driven smiles. If Muriel does not exist, he cannot be a thorn in our side.
That's right.
But isn't he also a thorn in theirs? For the time being.
All of this is going to be a timing issue. If we take too much time between securing the Warrens, too much time with our battle plans, too much time period, then House Avrandar will find out and be able to prepare. It's unlikely that they don't find out and prepare in some way, but the less time we give them to make those preparations, the better. We have the Zazana here. We have the Warrens. And then we have your infiltration, and if we are attacking the north of Avrandar, we have Muriel. Those are the 4 pieces of this puzzle.
Hey, is Muriel one of the 7?
Driven kind of like half nods and says, that is a term that I have heard used. It is not one that I am wholly familiar with. Our time here on the scale of things has been brief. And unfortunately, I've spent much of it in protecting the house and battling against Avrandar rather than researching the locals.
Okay, well, we got business with him anyway, so that's fine.
We don't
Her?
know if he has a spell book.
Them? We still gotta sever them. It doesn't matter.
True.
Driven and Errol all kind of like look at each other like questioningly, like y'all are saying shit that they have no clue what's up with right now. But they don't pry. They just kind of like
Right.
look at each other and then look at you in this kind of like accepting scenario of like, you don't have to tell us everything as long as you're not fucking us over type scenario.
Right. Yeah.
Like they understand that what their part in this task is to, if you work this out, they march to war, right? If you don't work this out, if you die in the process, then they continue onwards with their other plans.
To war.
Right. I can't stop but keep coming back to the Zazana as a priority number 1.
Well, let's kill him.
Driven and
Sorry.
Errolal. Driven starts to speak, stops himself, looks at Errolal. Errolal looks at him, and they disagree, right? They disagree, but they respect that at the end of the day, they're gonna let
They
you
both have
make the
ideas
decision.
for
Exactly.
dealing with
right?
the Zazana. They both agree. It felt like they
They
both,
both
agree
agree that the
Zazana
Zazana needs to be
with.
dealt with. Absolutely. And in both of their plans, right?
They're both shit plans. Let's
Both-
be real.
in-
They
in
both have
in both of their plans,
risk.
the theory is that if those plans work, they control the Zazana. Right? That you
Oh.
turn a threat an enemy into an ally.
What was
There
the
is a
white one's
third
name?
option that you guys could go for, right?
And just kill everything.
Yeah, they are of the opinion that trying to go in and just kill all of the Zazana is foolhardy. But that doesn't mean that you guys can't. That's just their opinion.
I mean, they tried, right?
Okay, so what
Yeah,
was
but a
the
drow
thing? This
warrior
Mad
is
Bull-
not a you.
What,
Does
As
this,
you've
what
seen
did
in the
Mad?
past.
Okay, so the
what
Mad
did
Mage.
what did
Warriors
they call the
equal to
white
me.
one? What was the albino's name? Did
They
they have a name for him?
They refer to him by his collar, Torque. Torque, the
Torque?
white-furred bull.
Or
Like a wine cork?
Torque.
O-R-K?
T-O-R-C. T-O-R-C.
Torque.
As if a torque, right? Like the
Like,
necklace.
arm torque?
Okay.
Well,
Like
specifically this one, yeah.
all right, so, but that
I don't. Yeah. Anyways,
collar, Maku has or is some way.
I don't. And this is Erelal speaking. She says, "I don't know the exact location of the key.
Of the key, but it is somewhere under
is-
Maku's watch.
It is not just within their territory. It is within Maku's abode. I have pinpointed that. I do not know
Okay.
if it's on his person. I do not know if it could be if you could infiltrate it stealthily and find it.
All right. Just to make sure I'm
There's
getting
one person
getting
in our group that could do a scout mission.
by himself.
I mean, he's got cat speed. He moves like 1,000 miles an hour. He competes with a monk. It's
Not only that,
incredible.
but
Lower
you-
than that.
But you guys have other options, right? Like,
Mhm.
you have things like... Actually, you don't have haste anymore, do you?
Nope.
You got rid of that. But you do.
Yep.
You all do have things like invisibility or other things that you can utilize to enhance the capabilities of someone doing a stealth mission.
Also,
you got options.
However,
You got a bunch of options.
Regardless, the white
also-
bull thing. Has
An
anyone
option.
talked to it? Is it talk to a bull?
what Maku?
No,
No. Torque.
he is currently housed.
The collar makes him
He is currently
Like,
housed
crazed.
here, but he is in a perpetual rage.
Oh.
Right.
I
the
have-
idea is the key makes him amenable to talking.
I have delved within his mind, and while I have not conversed with him, I have ascertained sentience there, intelligence there. But it is locked behind his unending rage.
Okay.
Perhaps if someone with greater powers of the mind than I met with him, they could ascertain more.
Matt. Go be a psychic man.
Also, Mapimi's heart, if we can get that for Driven, right? That would give him the ability to create or summon a
He's
creature.
summoning a demon that he may or may not be able to control.
I was gonna say. there's no way
Erelal
Ezra
says
agrees
out
to
loud, potentially summoning, potentially controlling.
Mm-hmm.
A creature
Driven
that
shrugs.
would make Maku submit. Was that the plan?
that. No, it would just be stronger than Maku, so then they follow it. I mean, we know
Okay.
some people that are pretty damn good at summoning. That's all I'm saying.
No, we don't.
That's
I know many people. You don't know what I know.
No, we don't.
You know
We
one
don't.
person that's very, very good at summoning.
Yeah, what
you
about
know
the
one
sun
person.
elf?
You know one person that might be the best at summoning, actually.
Yeah. What about
Black
Maka
Staff
Alburn
would
or
be-
whatever the fuck her name is?
Oh no, I'm talking about a certain white-haired, bearded individual.
Oh, Halaster.
Oh, I thought we were talking about damn Maka Alburn on the dang school tier.
That too, but I was talking about Halaster.
Oh yeah, he likes us. He probably helped.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Halaster Blackcloak likes us.
He's been nothing but helpful. I don't understand why he gets such a bad
No, no, no,
reputation.
no, no, no. I believe that we have yet to actually meet Halaster. We have met many, many different versions of him. We have not met him.
I think we have met him once. And it
Nope.
was probably at like
Absolutely not.
it was probably at like the
They-
first level, just we'll see if they fuck with us and we can end the campaign
Right.
here.
They are all him, and he splits his mind across all of the beings.
And
which
that's
is
why
he
he's
saves
mad?
people.
Yep.
That is a very arcanist thing to do, splitting your mind. I'm just saying.
I feel like the conversation has devolved.
No, the headmaster is definitely not him.
Oh, for sure
100%.
not.
Oh yeah,
Don't-
I,
For
I
sure
mean,
not.
I can smell
already
him
know
from
that.
15
Triven and
yards away.
Aralol
I
look
know-
at each other like, we're getting nowhere with this.
All right, so we want to go kill a head bull and take a key, or you want to go try and steal a key, or what?
I have concerns about clearing threats early on the Warrens if Avrindar is aggressively
Yeah,
trying
it's
to gain control. Because and I look at Driven. It's not that I don't think you're capable of controlling this entity as a part of your plan, but the amount of time it will take for that plan to be actionable after killing that entity is time we are losing on the Warrens.
The order of operations you choose to take is entirely your own. I take no offense. And you're right. Everything that we're proposing is a gamble.
Yes.
He is very anti-summoning demons. It's
Also,
not
that.
you.
Also, just to clarify, Trobjorn's construct worm is below
Below
us, right?
us.
Correct.
That is
Because
goes
the
from-
floor,
not
the
happening
floor
anywhere
below
up
us
here.
is Torbjorn's graveyard.
It
Yep,
cycles from this floor, the 12th floor.
Yep.
Now, I'm not gonna say that because Driven doesn't use
Doesn't
lingo
know or
like
care,
12th
yeah.
or 13th or anything like that, but he will tell you it cycles from this floor down to the next floor, which is known as Trobriand's graveyard, and down to the floor below it before
Ooh,
looping and coming back.
So it should not be a factor
In
in
this
what
conflict.
we're doing.
No.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Cool. Just
I-
wanted to make sure.
I do have curiosity in the relationship between Matashtai and his faculties to potentially quest into Torque, should he be willing. He has proven proficient with his bond with Wolf, for example, and other interactions he's had. At least giving that a chance before we act and push that snowball or that ice ball down the cliff or flip over the sand dial or whatever.
Right. All right. I'm fine with that as long as there's at least some assurance that on failure doesn't mean we're just going to fight him and kill him.
Correct.
I
He
don't want
is-
that to happen.
He is.
We stun him and run.
He is
Stun and
bound
run.
here
Yeah, he's bound,
He's-
bro.
within
He's in
bound.
Fire
our.
Watch.
We
Magically with chains, like
outfitted a storage facility to hold him with magically reinforced chains.
okay.
He
Thank
broke out of our original chains.
So you are the ones housing him, not
Yes. He
the
is here.
Zezana.
He was presumably, and he looks at Erlal, he was presumably exiled.
Mhm.
He just wandered in from the mist one day
As you do.
and began to run amok.
As
As
Minotaurs
you do.
Errolal kind of sighs and she says, "He did no lasting damage, and we were able to quell him shortly."
The Nahastu, what can you tell us about them?
Rilna speaks up.
I listen intently.
Troglodytes, tribal in nature, previously controlled the majority of both the northeast and southeast of the Warrens. Quite numerous, quite ferocious. It's entirely possible that if it weren't for House Avrandar menacing them, that they would have proven to be completely amenable neighbors. It's possible that they would not have been. But upon their arrival, House Avrandar immediately began to war with them and attempt to subjugate them, with some limited success. I believe there were some defectors from their tribe, some sort of inner power struggle within them. And now there are former Nahastu that work directly with House Avrandar. Which is concerning because that means that House Avrandar has more information to
Work with.
embattle the Nahastu with.
Okay.
I do not
Okay.
disagree with your assessment, Ezra. I do think that the Warrens is a ticking time bomb, and the longer that we go without addressing it gives House Avrandar an opportunity to gain a foothold there. However, at the same time, it is the closest in proximity and their immediate focus. So if you go storming in, clear out the forces of House Avrandar, liberate or defeat the Nahastu, well, Avrandar's going to know it.
Right.
Right.
It is a double-edged sword. There is not a right answer. There are just options before us.
Well, I thought we agreed to take care of the Zazana first anyway.
I was just collecting more information since we haven't really touched on
Sorry, so many
Who
names.
and
Zazana is or
The
are
Minotaurs.
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 on this floor.
Well, there aren't any other Minotaurs that you're aware of on other floors.
Well, I mean, there's
Just
Torque.
making it clear that, but Torque is an exile of the Zazana,
Okay.
both of which are housed within the maze level. This level, the house of the level of House Freth. The Nahashtu, Mapeni, and Trollton are all on the level above us, which is the intermediary level between Freth and...
This name, Trollton, what is that? Where have you heard that?
I agree. What is that? I have no memory of that.
So I've been doing research, and it's a name that's come up. There's a portal on in the Warrens that leads there.
That would explain.
I assume it's tied to this troll infestation you were referring to.
That would explain why we have killed so many trolls, but they seem endless. Huh. Well,
Sorry, I thought you guys. Okay.
Didn't y'all know?
we knew of
Happy
the
to
troll.
provide that
We knew of the
information.
troll menace, but we did not know their origination.
Happy to help.
Well, I don't know if you helped. I think you just set a new assignment for yourself.
Is Trollton like Troll Town?
I assume as much.
Because it sounds like Troll Town.
It does sound like Troll Town.
PX, no one asked for you.
PX is the stand-in for Mossy.
Mossy?
Yeah.
I could see that.
He
I
needs
feel
an
like this is
amethyst.
a
Give him
new
an
thing
amethyst.
where he gets up on your chair.
He's mad. He wants attention.
So, that was a lot of information, and PX wants attention. So maybe now is a good time for us to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we can see what the party wants to look at or potentially talk about or focus or what have you.
sir. What the hell? What the fuck?
What the fuck?
I'm just sitting here watching him eat your chair.
Get
We'll
down, little motherfucker!
We'll see you all back in just a few minutes for more Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
I don't know who the hell he thinks he is.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.